Okay, so welcome everybody. Today we have Niran on the call with us, and we are so excited to have you here. I need to. Can you pronounce your surname for me so I get this right?
Absolutely. It's Niran Kulathungam.
Kulathungam, Niran
That's pretty
Kulathungam.
close.
That's
Yeah,
exactly as I were going to say it, Niran.
I know. Like, exactly.
we're getting better at this
We are, we
pronouncing
are,
people's
we
surnames.
are
So
very much
Um,
better.
thank you for being here. We are so excited to get into this and learn a lot more about you. Just to give you a bit of an overview and a reminder for our members, we are a membership where our members come in and they get to listen to people like yourself who've done a lot of different things in their career, but really worked their way up to be a successful level. Like people would look at you and deem you as successful. And what we're really trying to do is tap into your mindset to really help our members understand that everybody has fears and doubts. Everybody has to learn about self awareness, how to better themselves. And it's really tapping into like the things that you've learned along the way to help our members recognize patterns in their own thinking and pull out learnings that they can take and put into their own lives as well. So we're going to get started. Nigel's going to read your bio. So give us a minute to go through this.
And it's a very impressive bio as well, Niran.
Is it? I put it together just for you, but if you were going to read it, I would have made it much shorter. Just
Oh, no,
No,
it's
no,
good.
no, it's good. The more detail we can get
Yeah.
across, it's the better.
okay.
Okay. So Niran helps people build wealth and clarity and lead with command, especially when the stakes are high. He works across two lanes, capital partnership and leadership performance. He actively owns and operates single-family and multifamily real estate and advises on building aligned capital partnerships. In parallel, he works with founders and operators to strengthen leadership performance, execution, and influence. With 2 decades of real estate investing and over 4 decades of leadership experience, Niran brings thinking and practical execution to real-world decisions. His background spans roles as a scientist, pastor, professor, dean, and business executive, giving him a rare ability to connect disciplined thinking with decisive action. Niran's work has been recognised with award-winning REIN Multifamily Investor of the Year, Renovator of the Year, and the Michael Millenaar Leadership Award. He has been published and quoted in outlets including Canadian Real Estate Wealth Magazine and Real Life Magazine. He believes a meaningful life is where wealth, passion, and compassion meet. Niran can often be seen in a suit or jeans, sometimes under a hat, coming from an event, or heading to a party. Niran is the president and chief ruckus maker of the Ascension Principle, where he helps entrepreneurs strengthen self-leadership, execution, and impact.
That is
That's a great
one
bio.
incredible
So,
bio. And what,
Nigel,
wow.
your voice makes it sound believable and just top tier.
I think it's the bio, but I'll take that as a compliment somewhere.
No, it's on the bio. You could read anything. It'll sound great.
So what I am so interested to get into this is we're looking at leadership from so many different angles with you. And it's going to be really interesting to understand your take on it, especially like coming like from a pastor. Like that's incredible, but such a span of of different areas in life that you've been there. So this is going to be really interesting. I am going to start with the question that we always start with to all our guests. And that is if you can start by just walking us through your career life path. I know you've got a really incredible story to share with us as well of what happened to you, but really start at the beginning and talk us through all these different avenues that you went through and what were the kind of turning points at each piece that made you, go on to the next evolution of your life? If you can just kind of give us a run through, that would be really good.
Sure. Before I do that, I just want to take a moment and just say I'm so grateful to be here with both of you. And I know on the call we've got, I think, Samara and Kujit. I may be
Yeah,
No,
it's
it's your name,
Koji
and I know.
and Vitalia that's on, but that's his business name that he's got there.
Oh, got it. Okay. Well, it's great to be on this call today with you. And for those of you who are catching it by recording, I'm so grateful that you've taken the time, a few minutes out of your day to join us. Um, so what I'll do is I'll give you the snapshot version. I grew up in Sri Lanka. I was born in Sri Lanka. The I think what you'll notice is that I've had to reinvent myself over and over again. At the age of 7, we ended up in Canada. We were here for 5 years. My dad was doing his PhD at McMaster University. We then went back to Sri Lanka. All my teenage years, or most of them, were spent in Sri Lanka. We went through a civil war, riots, civil unrest is a better word and we had people out to kill us, our house ransacked. We had to go into hiding, so to speak. And then finally we came back to Canada. When we landed in Canada, my dad ended up working for McMaster University and then Trent University and then Eastern Pentecostal Bible College in Peterborough. So anyway, I moved around a lot. That's what I'm trying to say. My undergraduate degree is chemistry biology. I have a master's degree in theology from McMaster, and I worked as a chemist for a few years. I worked for Coca-Cola Foods. I then got bored of that job and wanted to be I'm more of a people person, so I wanted to be out doing different things. I have pioneered a church, but most of all, what I've done um, a lot of is really like I'm an academic at heart, but I'm a weird mix of academic meets extrovert. So I like being around people. The biggest thing that I have learned in my life, and this is not my phrase, I think it's John Maxwell. I could be wrong on this, but I believe it's John Maxwell who says everything rises and falls on leadership. And it does not matter. I cannot change my environment. I can walk into a different room, but everything finally crystallizes to not how you're going to lead your process or your product if you're in business, but how are you going to lead yourself? That is the crucial question.
Yeah,
So,
100%. And
yeah.
that's exactly what we try and get to here as well. Yeah.
And then when I became the dean, I was actually getting ready to do my PhD at the same time. And I ended up with a motorcycle accident, got rear-ended. I was sitting at a red light, waiting for the light to turn green. A lady came up behind me, did not see me. The sun was in her eyes. She plowed through me doing over 60 kilometers an hour. I went up in the air. My head broke her windshield. I got thrown back out. I woke up with people shining flashlights in my eye and asking me, "Sir, do you know what date it is?" And I'm going, "Date." That has something to do with the word month, but I couldn't remember what the word month meant. So, long story short, it took me about 8 years to actually recuperate and come out of all that. I ended up with a traumatic brain injury, had to learn how to read new information, or I could read, but to process written information from a grade 3 level on. So when one of my doctors said, "You need to start at a grade 3 book," my pride would not allow me to do that. So I started with Calvin and Hobbes, the cartoon, right? And yeah, I ended up at one point, they told me I needed to be on all this medication, Ritalin, Prozac, and all, and oh, sorry. And then uh, what happened was I work with dogs. I train German Shepherd dogs, and I've worked with a very specialized people that train these dogs and handlers. So I call them. They're called Baden Canine. I call them, and I spoke to the head person there, Mike, who I've trained with a number of times before, and he said, "Just come see me. I'll give you a pup. You can start working the dog, and it will bring you out of your darkness." And I ended up having a German Shepherd for 11 years. I put her down a year ago. I have a new pup. She's up over there, created for this hour and a half, so she does not disturb us. But yeah, so dogs are important to me. Why don't you direct me a little bit more in which direction you want me to go here?
Yeah, definitely. So first I got to jump in. I feel as if we need like an exclusive little view of the pup at the end of this.
Yeah, even after the recording, we have to have
Yeah, we do.
the pup snap.
Yeah, the pup snap.
Well, it's a year and a half now.
Yeah. Okay, so it might be a bit bigger to pick up.
It's a big pup. It's not big, but she's a 60-pound dog.
Right, okay.
Okay.
So we're not going to have a pup on your knee then. Okay.
Okay.
So I think what we'd really love to hear more about, and like I kind of come back to your accident because that is like just unbelievable that you went through that. And I can imagine as somebody who's, been very academic and to then suddenly go back and it's kind of like having your pride like hit so much, isn't it? To then, have to relearn again. What I'd really like to understand is when you kind of started off in your career and you decided, okay, this is a change, it's not me. What was those changes where you were thinking, right, okay, I've reflected and I understand myself now to know that I need something else, either a change in career direction or I need something more for fulfillment, and that's why I need to find something else, because you've done quite a lot.
So let me go a little bit deeper, just using my accident down a bit of a vertical on leadership. When you have a traumatic brain injury, it's like a part of you goes missing. So here's my phone right here. If I put my phone down and it's in front of me, I can see it. But one of the symptoms for me with my traumatic brain injury is that if I put my phone over here behind me and I no longer saw it, it ceased to exist. Mm-hmm. So my short-term memory was very poor. So what that did at the same time is that all of a sudden I'd always felt like I was always in business or leadership or some role like that. But I always had the sense from the time I was 13 years old, that's when the seeds of it first started to develop. I've always had the sense that I had calling and purpose in life. And I love connecting with people, but I was also, I'm a follower of Christ. So I'm Christian based, so that I had a vertical connection. And that connection disappeared. It's like God went silent. And what I did is I then assumed that the silence of God, or my perception, the silence of God equated to the removal of my gifts and God's presence in my life. And it ripped my identity out from under me. So a lot of times when I'm coaching CEOs, leaders, managers, one of the things that often is axiomatic or animating underneath the surface of the things that we talk about are three questions that people always that people are wrestling with underneath the surface. That is, the first one is, who am I? Who am I? It's a question of identity. And I encounter this where I notice people encountering when they're in their like 25 years old. They're out of university, they've got their first job, and they've partied, but now it's kind of like getting lame. And 25, 27, 28, somewhere around there, it's all of a sudden, it's like, who am I? What meaning is there in life? Like that, they have this crisis of identity. The other place I notice it is in people that are around approaching 50. It's almost like your life has gone by, and it's almost like you've lived your life, but your life has lived you.
Yeah.
And so what you have to do at that place is just put the brakes on, stop, turn around, and bring things into alignment. So first question is the question of identity. Second question, does that make sense? Let me pause.
Yeah, 100%. Brilliant. Yeah.
Okay. The second question that people wrestle with, and that I had to wrestle with, that the accident forced me to look at, was so first question was, who am I? Second question, what am I to do? It is a question of purpose. Why am I here? And before I had my accident, the weekend before, I'd spoken at an event, 700 people. I felt like I was in my element. This is where leadership, my people skills, my academic skills, and my my wrestling with God skills, all of that got meshed together. And all of a sudden, that whole thing went away, and I lost my purpose. I didn't know how. And people say, "Don't get married to your job." That's not your identity. I don't buy it. I think what we do when we're fulfilled is really an extension of our identity.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a question of purpose. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Third, where am I going? Now that this has happened to me, they were telling me, all the medical staff and all the testing that I did around me all told me the same thing. You will never work again. You'll never be able to run a company. You'll never lead again. You may be able to do a little thing over here on a very limited basis, but you are done. You are on long-term disability for the rest of your life. And then what happened was my whole future evaporated, it just went away. So the question I had to face was, where am I going? What's my vision now?
Mm.
And so those three questions are the questions that I constantly run up into when I'm coaching or speaking to leaders. They may say things like, I can't figure this process out. But figuring out process is it's difficult, but it's not that difficult. What's really underneath it is, am I capable enough to figure this out? Am I capable enough to lead this? I feel like a fish out of water. I really feel like, people think I'm here, and if only they could see the real me. What happens if they saw what my own angst is? And in leadership, on the outside, you have a persona that you present, and you have to. There's a sense of authenticity, but at the same time, you can't lose it if you've got a challenge. You've got to keep it together. So that's the challenge that happens. So, yeah.
That is golden, absolutely. And I resonate with that so much, because I truly believe that you brought it back to a process then. So such a big piece of understanding yourself and self-awareness. But then when people are saying, no, I don't know how to figure out this process, I completely we believe this, there's this underlying piece that when you get to know yourself, and that's exactly the work that we do here as well, when you really understand yourself and you're aware of the person you are, what drives you, what motivates you, it actually makes it more aligned and easier to figure out the steps to solve a process, because you understand who you are as a person, and you're aware of how you're communicating, and whether those pieces, how you are, might not actually be helping you get to the result.
Yes.
So it's that awareness that brings it in. And I just want to share a story on this, because it reminded me of, we were keynote speakers at Guelph University back in the end of November. And
what were you speaking on? I'm just curious.
It was all about getting yourself out into the world, using LinkedIn to drive visibility, presence.
Predominantly based around leadership as well, but how to build your brand as well.
At University of Guelph?
Yeah. So we're hopefully
my son's at University of Guelph.
Yeah, it was really good, and we're hopefully doing the same for Toronto as well, aren't we? So we're just kind of in talks with them now, and we love that. We love giving back in that way to the younger generation. But one thing that we asked them on the stage, and it comes back to your point of, you end up making your career and your job your identity. And the younger generation don't, like, that's what you do. Everybody asks you, well, what are you going to be when you grow up? It's all about career, and that's your identity. And so we asked the question to everybody, and they were all, like they were, graduates, just kind of co-ops. And we said to them, I want you to write down what you want to be known for, not your career or whatever, just you as a person. What do you want to be known for?
Yes.
And it was like enlightening. There was like, oh, I never thought of myself like that, about thinking what I want to be known for. And it's like, that's a really good starting point to help you on your career, to not realize, to help you realize it's not you. You've got to think about who you are first, and then ideally build that into a career, and you'll be much more confident and happier if you do it that way. So
Oh.
yeah. So
But even the point there, Niran, as well, when you mentioned when you get into that 40 era kind of thing, that age group, where you realise then that, okay, I have a bit of runway behind me now, and hopefully a good bit of runway ahead of me. But that's when a lot of people that we find are actually, they're in that crossroads where if they've not achieved everything they need to achieve, it's like a little bit of panic starts to set in. People start doing things and looking at stuff that may work for them, may not work for them, may give them the direction they need. But the one thing that the people are not looking at is what is their core fundamentals. Because whatever you go do, you're taking you with it.
Yeah.
So if you don't fix it with what you're doing now, you're going to take that. And if you do have strengths, weaknesses, they're going wherever direction you go until you start recognizing yourself.
Yeah.
Which is great. Great.
Yeah.
And on that note,
I've got a question here for you, Niran.
Uh-oh.
At Leadership in Life, we do talk a lot about self-awareness, how to notice us thinking, reaction, and patterns. Can you share a time when a fear or a self-doubt or emotional challenge showed up for you in a real way? It could be like confidence, public speaking, imposter syndrome, people-pleasing, anything like that.
You're asking me for a specific time.
Well, just anything that kind of jumps out. Like, a lot of people do. I think you kind of touched on it then, like the imposter syndrome. People obviously feel like, am I really good enough for this? Or public speaking is a huge one, isn't it?
So, yeah, public speaking is usually in there. The reason I'm hesitant about giving a specific example is because I feel like and forgive me, but I feel like I live in that zone of feeling stretched all the time. And if this is going out to leaders, you leaders will get it. Every morning you get up and there's something that you didn't expect to happen. There's a surprise, and you step into an area, especially if you're growing companies, you're always stepping into an area where you are feeling like an imposter syndrome. When I face that, there are three things, and I apply this to any company or product or anything that people do, is there's what I call the 3 Ps: people, product, and process. So when I look at that, often I have felt a number of times where I feel like the process, I don't know how to do this. So I will automatically go to, well, how am I supposed to do that? And that's the wrong question. Because the how shows up when the who shows up. Creativity follows commitment. I used to work for Grant Cardone. Do you know Grant?
Yep. I saw a photo of you on your socials with him.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. I worked for him for about close to 2 years. Not just myself. A team. Richard Dolan led a team there, and we 5x'd his global licensing program in that time period.
I should share with everybody, Grant Cardone, if you don't know him, just Google him. He's huge.
Once you Google him, he'll always show up.
Yes,
exactly,
He's a master at marketing.
Yeah.
But now I can't even remember what I was going to say about Grant. Bring me back to where we were at. We're talking people, product, and process.
Yes.
Right? And process is something that we often go to and try and figure out how. And Grant will often say, you don't lack capacity. I'm paraphrasing what he says, but he'll always come back to what you do is you lack commitment. Everything else follows commitment. Your creativity, how you do things follows once you're all in. So I look at that and I say, process, that's important. But what's more important is where you're going, product, because that's going to focus you on your direction. What is most crucial is people. Who are you? So the question really, whenever I encounter and feel myself wrestling with an imposter syndrome, I start off with, okay, what have I done before that's going to give me confidence? So I borrow confidence from my past. Then I look at who's surrounding me. And when I test something, when they respond positively, I borrow confidence from them. So in public speaking, often I'm borrowing confidence from the audience. When the audience engages, if I'm speaking and there's three people that are locked in on me and my confidence level is a bit lower or I'm feeling nervous, I'll focus on the three people that are locked in on me. Why? I'm borrowing their confidence. So yeah, so I borrow confidence, and on the imposter syndrome, there's the big thing that you can do is write out the thing that scares you the most. Because what happens is that when you don't get it out of your head, it lives like the monster behind you. You know, do you have kids?
Yes, we have one little boy who's 7.
He's 7. Okay, I've got 2 boys that are much older. They're 20 and 17. But remember when maybe now, or remember when you were kids, you'd go to sleep and you were convinced that there was something under the bed or something in the closet. And if you ignored it, that little baby monster under the bed starts to grow and grow and grow. But if you muster up your courage to open the closet door or look under the bed and you realize there's nothing there, the monster vanishes. It's a principle. When you look at the thing that scares you the most, it gets smaller. It shrinks in size. So if you're feeling imposter syndrome is on, you're trying to figure all this out, look at the thing that scares you the most, and then ask yourself this question: who am I? Who have I been? Thirdly, most important, who do I need to become?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Love it.
Brilliant. So I have another question for you, and it's really about going into when, like, whatever mentors or people that have had an influence around you, for good or bad, is there a moment where you've been observing somebody else and that has fundamentally changed how you approach your business leadership or how you lead yourself because of how they did something? And whether it was somebody inspiring or, somebody that it was a difficult situation and you thought, I'm not going to be like that person, but was there somebody that really changed how you fundamentally lead yourself?
I want to make sure I get to the core of your question. I think that the question you're asking me have I had an experience of somebody else that has made me shift really quickly or in the way I approach whatever I'm doing? If I got that correct?
Yeah.
Yes. Let me name a few. Is that what you're looking for?
And what was it? What was it that they did? Or what was it that one particular one did that stands out to you that really kind of, shaped you?
All right. I'll give you 2. I'll give you a couple. One, I'll start with my all-time hero, my dad. And when I was a kid, we had been in Sri Lanka, in Canada, gone back to Sri Lanka, and I was really struggling with school because I'd forgotten my mother tongue and I had to learn in the language of Tamil. So I was really struggling. I was 13 or 14 years old, and I was forced to take tutoring classes and all of this stuff. And I looked at my dad once and I was angry. And then when you're 13, 14, anger turns to the brink of tears. And I looked at him and I said, "You're smart. I can't do what you do." And he looked at me, and he is smart. He's got 4 degrees under, I believe, under his belt. But he looked at me and he said, 10% of being good at what you do or at being excellent at what you do is your brains. 90% is just hard work. It's sweat and tears. I remember when I had the accident and I was questioning who I was and what was going on in my life, and I was doing a course at UFT, a PhD level course on neurology and the existence of the soul. And we were wrestling with stuff, and I went to Dad and I said, Dad, like, I feel like I'm any little bit of faith or wholeness I have, I feel like this course is ripping it out of me. And he looked at me and he said, good. Until you come to the edge of darkness and you don't believe there's nothing there, you haven't really believed. And so things like that from my dad really shifted the way that my approach, and that the darkness in our lives was not to be shunned away from, but was to be embraced and then brought into submission by our will and by the grace of God. Right. So that's one person. And then lately, I have had so many, Jordan Peterson, that some of you will know. I've met him only a few times. And what was striking for me was I was at an event that he was speaking at. And afterwards, there was an intimate question and answer period. And this one woman stood up and she was very aggressively grilling him about stuff. And if I was him, I would have just told her to shut up and take her seat. He didn't. He asked more questions and asked more questions, and he was so patient. And I saw in real life what humility mixed with brilliance looks like. So, there's two. I can keep going on and on. I've got
that's great.
That's amazing.
No, really appreciate that. One of the questions I've got, Niran, and apologies there, we're just kind of throwing questions at we just
throw questions, whatever you got.
Pick your brain to the best of his ability. Obviously, you've been heavily involved with real estate and you've been successful in real estate. But from a leadership standpoint, and we do talk about this a lot, and we see the obvious benefits of how leadership can be so impactful and so beneficial in the real estate world. But what's your kind of thoughts on how has your leadership, years and years of leadership, helped your real estate journey as well?
So I came into real estate literally by accident. Remember that motorcycle accident we talked about? That was what got me into real estate. So, short story sidebar, I was working with a cognitive therapist, and I was reading material. It was for that course on neurology and the existence of the soul. It was for that course, and I was reading through some text material, and then she would ask me questions, and I would tell her what I had read. What she quickly realized was I was picking up a word in one paragraph and a word in another paragraph, and because I had prior knowledge of this information, I could make it up. So she grabbed, it was at the Mississauga Public Library down near Square One. She grabbed, gardening magazine, might have been Home and Garden. The front of the magazine had yellow tulips on it. And she opened it and she had me read two paragraphs, or the first two paragraphs of an article about tulips. I read the article about tulips, and then she asked me a question, and I could not remember what I had read. So she told me to go and read in an area that I had no prior knowledge about. I ended up at Chapters, bought a book called Real Estate Investing by Don R. Campbell.
Great.
Right? I read that book with my speech language pathologist. joined REIN, Real Estate Investment Network, and then ended up going through their training process. And then a year later, we bought our first door, then the second door, then the third door, and then I could go back to work. But I thought I'd just do this as a business, and that took off. In that process, what I had to do was I had to lead myself. It's the mistake that most entrepreneurs make is that they think that leadership is about leading other people and leading a process. And those are important and have their place. But if you cannot lead yourself, well, what does leading yourself even look like? It means, when you lead a process, you are controlling a process. Leading yourself means controlling you. And we get very slippery with ourselves. So leading yourself is really the toughest of all domains. And it is the thing that will cause the most amount of anguish and pain and the most reward at the same time. So throughout this, I had to go, okay, like I remember the first time I went to a real estate investment conference. It was a REIN conference. My head was so messed up, I could not even sit in the meetings. I went and hid in the bathroom. When my wife picked me up, and because I wasn't allowed to drive, they wouldn't give my driver's license to me at that point. When she picked me up, she asked me, how was it? And I said two things. One, I said, the suits these guys wear are way expensive, right? Second, I said, next year, I'm coming back to this conference and I'm not going to buy a property. It was all I wanted to do. This is my goal. 1 year from now, I will return to this very conference and I will be able to carry on an intelligent conversation with Don Campbell, Peter Kinch, and I think it was Barry McGuire, the lawyer. And then I had to lead myself to get there. So what I did is I went and parked myself at a Starbucks or a Second Cup where there was lots of activity, grabbed my phone, put a 5-minute timer on, and made myself focus on one task for 5 minutes. I did that faithfully every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I did that for a year. So disciplining yourself and leading yourself got me to my first door. Then I had to develop the old skills started coming back, because when you lead yourself, the process skills come easier. Mm-hmm. And I was able to attract people who wanted to invest in real estate, but didn't have the time or the wherewithal to commit to it. So they started partnering with me, and that started to take a life of its own. And then people came to me asking me for coaching, and that took a life of its own. So I wish I could tell you that everything was by design. The main design I did is I did not let myself off the hook. I told myself.
Yeah, I doubt that we'll ever hear a story like that, Niran. That is an incredible story on not only how you got into real estate, but yeah, just that focus of where you were when you first went into that room to a year later and how you got there. That's incredible. Like, wow.
I was thinking more just like, what are the chances of that book that you were going to pick up? That book could have been any book, but picking that book up changed the course of your life forever.
Yeah.
Yes, really? I did. I had always wanted to, when you always know that there's something that you should be doing, but you keep putting it off just because life gets in the way.
Yeah, we do that.
Yeah.
I'd always noticed that the people that were financially well off all had real estate in their portfolio. So I always wanted to invest in real estate, but never did anything about it. And then when I still remember finding the book, and the book was damaged, so we got Chapters to drop the price on it. Right.
The story gets better. Oh, that's incredible. Wow.
Yeah.
So I think we're kind of coming up for time now. Yes. I don't know how to top that story, but I think if we can wrap this up by unless you've got any other questions.
No,
So if we can wrap this up by, if you can give any advice to either the younger generation or people who are really wanting to kind of, level up like in their careers and what they're doing. Really, any final thoughts for people that might feel capable, that they know there's something there, but there's any kind of fear, uncertainty, or doubt that's taking over them? What's one bit of advice or perspective that you wish you'd have heard later on in life? Or any kind of final thought, really, around that you think might help?
Yes.
Fine.
I'm thinking because I got multiple answers and I'm trying to figure out which road to go down. One of my partners and friends who's also a coach for me is Richard Dolan. And Richard actually coined this thing that what he calls Jeff, judgment, ego, fear. These are the three things that live in the back of your head, keeping you safe, so to speak. Mm-hmm. What I found is that when I coach and when I talk, even look at myself, judgment, ego, or fear shows up. But underneath it is, again, I go back to an identity issue. Like when we talk about mindset is what the vernacular that's used to make that concept easier to talk about. But really underneath mindset is really a philosophical conversation about who are you. It's about beliefs. Nigel, it's like what you said earlier about aligning with beliefs and values. Like it's about beliefs, it's about values, it's about who you are, it's about your identity, it's about your purpose, and it's about where you're heading. Mm-hmm. And when those three things get challenged, all of a sudden we have things like imposter syndrome. We have things like judgment, ego, and fear. We have things like not being able to do, and there's this angst that happens. And, the word that's thrown around now is cognitive dissonance, which just means that, hey, cognitively, this is where you should be, and this is where you are, and you see the gap, and it's pissing you off. That's what it means. But that gap is what you have to tighten and close. And the only choice you have is remain where you're at or move towards where you want to go. It is not going to be pretty. It's not going to be nice all the time, but you have to execute. If you do not execute on what you want to do or be or become, you remain. It's really that simple. And the biggest mover of execution outside of you actually doing it is having somebody stand over you, help you talk it through, see it through, and act it through. So that's where I am passionate about coaching and advisory services, right? Because I see the real life change that happens. Like both of you give advice and provide coaching services. Like what we do is we actually accelerate the time. Like we speed things up and we are able to get obstacles out of the way. Right? So I wish there are two things I wish I had done that I would tell my younger self. One, stop making excuses and let your confidence rise up to the top surface. Right? Two, just do something. Execute. Move. Don't wait.
Yeah, take action.
That's it.
Yeah. And the action has to be small enough that you can do it. We get stuck in this loop of talking about what you should be doing. Well, there's things that we should be doing and there's things we could be doing. Do what you can, not what you should.
Yeah,
right?
That's brilliant.
Amazing advice.
I love it.
So
Absolutely brilliant to end on. And Focus on that one little step in front of you, not the whole staircase.
Yeah.
That's kind of breaking it down a bit. Well, this honestly has been incredible. And like I said, this will go in our member portal.
Perfect.
If any of our members happen to be interested in getting in touch with you, are we able to put your link under there?
Absolutely.
And then if they're interested to get in touch and learn about
Absolutely.
services maybe, then
Yep.
yeah, okay, perfect.
You're
We'll do it
welcome.
for everybody. So yeah, thank you. Honestly, this has been an absolutely brilliant interview. So many amazing golden nuggets there. So thank you so much. I can honestly say I don't think that we'll probably ever have another interview like that.
No, and yeah, and just
story.
thank you for being so vulnerable, Niran. It's the main thing that we really want to give to us members is we don't want to give anything that's sugarcoat. We want to give them true factual life information that's really going to help them. So we really do appreciate the vulnerability and sharing that with us members.
Yeah.
Oh, you're most welcome. I don't know of any other way to live.
Amazing. So on that note, thank you so much. And I am going to stop.